This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. The faces of Tang Jia and the others turned ugly one by one. The originally foolproof plan actually had such a variable. Only people who had extremely high attainments in both martial arts and magic could be alive and kicking under the double pressure of the formation and the dragon's might. Their best candidate was undoubtedly you, but they didn't expect you to be so seriously injured because of his carelessness. No need. I alone am enough to kill him. Yu's roar could be heard as his huge body panted heavily. Blood was flowing down from his face, and 3 dark red meridians began to appear on his back. The color became brighter, and the strength in his body increased. The power of the thunderbolt just now did not cause him much harm. What really hurt him was that he had forcefully erupted his soul power, which had damaged his soul. At this moment, he was trembling under the dragon's might, but as the 3 ancestral bloodlines in his body were opened, the trembling gradually dissipated. Oh. I'm really curious. How are you going to break the thunderbolt without the Emperor Qi of the 9 heavens? Or is it because of your stupid dignity that you'd rather die than submit? Yunxiao's body spread out again, and the power of thunder and lightning in his hand grew stronger and stronger. He stared at you with cold eyes and bent forward slightly. An electric arc crackled in the air as Yunxiao's body turned into a bolt of lightning and shot toward you. He reappeared only a few feet away from him, then turned his hand and struck down with a thunderbolt palm. Green lightning, break. It was the same move, but this time it gave you more time to prepare. He slowly raised the hand that was holding the sword and drew a series of afterimages in the air. He said unhurriedly, the so-called Emperor's Qi suppresses everything because the Emperor's Qi of the 9 heavens has condensed the laws of heaven and earth, and everything in the world is under the laws. However, even without Emperor Qi, as long as the power level is high enough, it can still suppress a large number of inexplicable techniques. For example, the ancestral power of my monster race. You roared, and a terrifying demonic power exploded from his body. It was completely different from the power before, and it was much higher in level. Yunxiao's power of thunder was actually blocked by his burst of energy. Yunxiao's pupils constricted as he cried out in horror, "What?" It actually suppressed my elemental power. In the sky, Li's eyes were filled with shock as he said, he actually opened 3 ancestral meridians. Had you gone crazy? He'll die like this. You is indeed the high priest, Sheng said with a serious face. Perhaps Li Yunxiao is his old enemy, and has even become a demon in his heart. I'm afraid he won't be able to sleep and eat in peace if he is not eliminated. It's also a battle chosen by you himself. He wants to completely wipe out Yunxiao with his own hands. Beside him, Li Yi's body trembled. His eyes were filled with hatred as he mumbled and roared, Li Yunxiao is mine, my old enemy. I want to tear him apart with my own hands, and I want to multiply the horror of hell on him. Shang looked at him indifferently, not saying anything. Boom. As the sword came down, Yunxiao's power of thunder was instantly destroyed. The sword beam cut through the sky and cut into his body, causing a fountain of blood to spray out. Young Master Yun. The people of Tianyuan Trading Company below were all shocked. Ding Ling and the other 3 turned pale. Xiao Huang Hao Lian couldn't sit still any longer. He immediately turned into a beam of light and rushed out. Bastard, come back. Mo Xiaochuan was shocked and furious. At a time like this, they could not afford to panic. If they forced their way up, they would only be adding to the chaos. After shooting several dozen meters high, young Emperor Hao Lian finally spat out a large mouthful of blood. He fell from the sky and crashed into the barrier again. The power of the dragon's might outside shook directly into the soul, and no one could resist it without the soul power of an 8th-tier alchemist. You'll only add to the chaos. Mo Xiaochuan was so angry that he stomped on his foot a few times and said angrily, if you cause any more trouble, I'll directly slap you to death. I'm afraid young Master Yun won't be able to hold on any longer, Siu Aibo said bitterly. But he's already done his best. Do you have any other ideas? Zhang Chong said, I think we can only wait and try to block it. Xiangzi's dragon's might can only last for the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. I don't think it will last long. As long as the dragon's might isn't here, the power of the arsenal formation can't stop us at all. Luo Ying smiled wryly. I don't think so. Ever since young Master Yun started to cultivate the Jushi wheel, that demon seems to have sped up the process. Don't you feel the power outside is increasing rapidly? I'm afraid the enchantment will break soon. Chen Feng suddenly said, now that things have come to this, I can only try this method. If we succeed, some people can escape, but if we fail, we'll be completely annihilated. Oh. Young Master Chen, do you have a way? Great. Cui Bo was overjoyed. We have to try anything now. Zhu Keating's heart skipped a beat, and he suddenly said, could it be Wufu? How confident are you? Chen Feng shook his head and said, I'm not sure, but I'll try it as a last resort. This method also requires a certain amount of time to prepare. If we wait for the barrier to break, it will be too late. Even if we succeed, at most 18 people will be able to leave. What? Only 18? Everyone was shocked. The hearts of the thousands of people within the barrier that had just warmed up turned cold again. Only 18 of them could leave, and that would have nothing to do with them. On the contrary, they were all thinking evilly in their hearts, hoping that the result would fail and that those 18 people would die first. Chen Feng raised his hand and pulled out the soft sword from his waist. He placed it horizontally on the ground and said indifferently, this thorn of the purple snake was made with a real 9th rank purple snake as the main material. After unsealing it, it can transform into the original form of the purple snake. Moreover, there are 3,600 arrays engraved on the snake's body. 3 of them are main arrays, one for attack and one for defense. The other one I've never used before is to travel through space. Cui Bo frowned, how far can this spatial travel go? Are you sure you can break through the formation power of the Jushi formation? Of course. Chen Feng replied proudly. The teleportation formation on the sword could pass through all space without being restricted by any power. Even Liang Yui's spatial manipulation domain is useless against my purple snake's thorns. His expression dimmed slightly as he smiled bitterly. But I've only tried to send the sword chi into the shuttle, and I've never tried to send a human through it. But father once said that humans can do it too. If sect leader Chan was here, the success rate would be 100%. Cui Bo sighed. Zhu Keating snorted coldly, Lord Cui, what are you saying? If the sect master was here, he would have killed all of them in one move. He wouldn't have needed to escape through space. This is also a buy-in. Can you take my son with you for the 18 spots? Young Master Chan, Cui Bo asked bitterly. Father. Unless we leave together, I will not escape alone. Cui Yuan's expression changed greatly, he said firmly. Everyone tensed up. This was the only way to escape. Although there was a failure rate, it was better than staying and waiting for death. All of them were staring at Chen Feng with looks of desire on their faces. None of them wanted to die. Cui Bo's face darkened and he shouted, you'll only drag me down if you stay. This is not the time for you to make the decision. He stood up and bowed deeply to Chen Feng, I hope that young Master Chen can give me a place. As long as my son can escape, I will be very grateful. Everyone's expression changed drastically. With Cui Bo's status, even if he was not as high as Chen Duantian, he was at least not below the elder of the Blade sect. How could he give Chen Fengxing such a big gift? Cui Yuan's entire body trembled as tears gushed out, his fists clenched tightly. His father did this all for him. Otherwise, with the honor of the Myriad Treasure Tower's deputy tower master, even if he died, it was impossible to bow to a junior. His eyes were blurry, and he could no longer say no. How could he refuse his father's sincere heart? Chen Feng's heart skipped a beat as he did not expect Cui Bo to be willing to lower himself to such a level. He said hurriedly, Lord Cui, don't worry. I'll give brother Cui Yuan a spot. Thank you, young Master Chen. Cui Bo was overjoyed and bowed again. The crowd had already recovered from the shock of Cui Bo's condescending attitude. The quota was already limited, and now there was one less. They were all anxious, but they didn't know what to say. Su Donha suddenly stood up and walked in front of Chen Feng. She learned from Cui Bo and bowed. She smiled and said, "Young Master Chen Feng, I'm the great elder of Empyrean One Pavilion. Can you give me one of the 18 spots? I'm willing to use anything to exchange for it. Even if I don't have it now, I can definitely get it with my status." Everyone was floored and looked at her with contempt. Chui Bo was lowering his pride for his son, but she was doing it for herself. It was obvious who was better in terms of character and integrity. Even Chen Feng did not hide his disdain. He said indifferently, "The quota is limited, I'm afraid it'll be difficult to give it to Elder Su." Limited slots? Su Donha's expression changed drastically. She originally thought that with her identity and status, there would be no problem, but the other party actually rejected her. She immediately screamed, "Why don't you tell us who the 18 candidates are? I'd like to see who else is more qualified than me." Humph. Chen Feng snorted coldly and said, "Our blade sect has 11 people. Including Chui Yuan, there are 12 people. There are only 6 spots. And Miss Shui, there are only 5 spots." Xiao Jingming suddenly said. Chen Feng furrowed his brows as his gaze swept past the pale-faced Shui Luoyan. Just as he was about to reject her, Xiao Jingming suddenly said, "Chen Feng, I'm begging you. As long as you take Miss Shui with you, I, Xiao Jingming, will automatically make way for you when I see you in the future, and will always bow my head in front of you." After he finished speaking, he actually knelt down on one knee in front of everyone. Chen Feng and Shui Luoyan's bodies trembled. The emotions in their eyes were completely different. Shui Luoyan's hands were clenched tightly as large tears rolled down her face. Zhu Keating sighed. Xiao Jingming had completely fallen in love with Shui Luoyan. He was even willing to give up the dignity that he was most proud of. "All right, I promise you. You are the most outstanding genius alchemist in my sect," Chen Feng said indifferently. "You have the right to bring one person with you." "Thank you," Xiao Jingming said in a deep voice. Chen Feng no longer paid any attention to him. Instead, he turned to the crowd and said, "There are only 5 places left." He glanced at the crowd and said, "There are only 5 places left. The Mando Chamber of Commerce has a close relationship with the Blade Sect. You can be one of the powerful elders." The powerful citizen was overjoyed. He didn't think that he would have a share. He said excitedly, thank you, young Master Qin. I think Brother Li, as one of the 4 prodigies of the North, has the right to have one," Chen Feng said with a smile. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. Another one was missing, and their faces turned ugly. "Many thanks." Li Feiyu forced a smile. Chen Feng nodded and said, "Brother Tang Xian from the 4 Extreme sect. As the successor of the throne, I think you have the right to have one. Otherwise, when the king-level leaders find out about today's matter, I won't be able to explain it to them." "Thank you, young Master Chen." Tang Jia also showed a grateful expression. Everyone's expression became very ugly. There were only 2 left now. "I hope young Master Chen can consider the money sect and give young Master Woody a place," Zhang Chong said. Chen Feng muttered to himself for a moment before saying, "All right, young Master Woody is the most promising successor of the money sect. He has the right to have one." He had to consider how to maximize the benefits of the quota allocation. Su Donha suddenly shouted, "There's only one left. It must be the turn of the 3 chambers of commerce that didn't get their turn. Who is more qualified than me?" She immediately pushed out the few chambers of commerce that had already obtained the quota. Otherwise, in terms of status or strength, she really wouldn't be ranked. "I wonder if I'm qualified to do so," Min Qingxiang forced a smile. Su Donha said angrily, "Old man, you are the one who brought Xiangzi here. You are one of the culprits. It's already merciful of me not to kill you." Chen Feng raised his head and looked up into the sky. He was silent for a moment before he sighed and said, I originally wanted to keep Li Yunxiao for the last spot. He is a worthy opponent. But I'm afraid he won't be able to come down again. I'll give this spot to Tianyuan Trading Company. Who's willing to come with me? He looked at the people of Tianyuan Trading Company. Shut your stinky mouth. Ding Ling's face changed and she said angrily. Young Master Yun will be here soon, and everyone will be saved. That's right, Yunsheng said coldly. No one in Tianyuan Trading Company wants your spot. If young Master Yun lives, we'll live. If young Master Yun dies, we'll die. Her words were firm and decisive, and Mo Xiaochuan and the others also had a look of determination on their faces. Chen Feng's eyes were filled with shock. He then forced a smile and said, I'm indeed not as good as Li Yunxiao, and even though I'm very good at summoning women, I've never been short of people around me. But, if I really encounter a life-and-death situation, is there anyone willing to die with me? The four girls beside Chen Feng all had looks of shame on their faces. Chun Qin hurriedly said, the four of us are naturally willing to live and die with young master. Chen Feng's face turned cold as he snorted, I advise you not to be so certain, or I'll take it seriously. Chuan Qin's face turned red and she didn't dare to say anything. Su Donha laughed. The Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce is not qualified. The Tianyuan Chamber of Commerce doesn't need it. The last place should belong to the Empyrean One Pavilion, right? Chen Feng nodded, sure, we'll give the last spot to Miss Liang. Liang Jianjia, Su Donha said furiously, give the quota to my Empyrean One Pavilion, I will allocate it. How would you dare to compete with me? Chen Feng replied coldly, I'm the one who decides who gets the spot. Ugly old woman, who do you think you are? Don't jump around in front of me, I'm not used to it. You. Su Donha was furious, but she held it in and said, young Master Chen Feng, I hope you'll consider this carefully. You'll get a lot more benefits from saving me. Besides, if you don't take me with you, you won't be willing to leave. Everyone revealed an expression of extreme disdain. They had seen shameless people, but this was the first time they had seen one in front of so many people. Chen Feng looked in the direction of Empyrean One Pavilion and said, Liang Yui, are you willing to come with me? Su Donha's aura turned cold, and her cold eyes immediately shot over. Liang Yui suddenly felt as if she had fallen into an ice cave. Her whole body was cold. She gritted her teeth and suddenly said, yes, I'm willing to leave with young Master Chen Feng. Please take me with you. Yui. Su Donha's face twisted in anger as she roared, you dare to fight me for the spot? I'm going to kill you. She raised her hand and was about to slap him. Zhu Keating's figure flashed, and a ray of light streaked across, immediately suppressing his aura. He said coldly, crazy old hag, do you want to start a fight here? Once the barrier is broken, everyone is finished. If I can't live, then so be it. Su Donha laughed evilly. As soon as she finished speaking, several powerful auras landed on her. They were from the other chambers of commerce. Cui Bo said coldly, Su Donha, if you dare to be impudent, I will kill you even if the enchantment is broken. His son was on the list, so he had to give him away no matter what. Luo Ying's face was also frosty as he said coldly, killing her is like killing a chicken. It won't affect the barrier at all. Su Donha, you'd better be more honest, Zhang Chong snorted coldly. If we work together, we might still be able to survive, but if you continue like this, you'll die now. Su Donha's expression was extremely ugly, but she did not dare to be presumptuous in front of the powerful auras of these people. She could only look at Liang Yui with hatred as she walked out of the crowd and leaned towards Chen Feng. She said hatefully, you ungrateful bastard. Chen Feng revealed a faint smile, Miss Liang, it seems that Empyrean One Pavilion doesn't care much about you. Why don't you join our Blade sect? I can guarantee that you will be a core disciple. Liang Yui was shocked. The status of a core disciple of the Blade sect was much higher than that of a core disciple of the Empyrean One Pavilion. You don't have to promise me now, Chen Feng laughed. You can think about it after we get out. If this ugly woman doesn't die, I'm afraid you won't be able to return to Empyrean 1 Pavilion. Liang Yui was shocked and hesitant. Thank you, young Master Chan, for your appreciation. Chen Feng smiled. No need to thank me. With your strength, you're definitely qualified. I believe that the Blade Sect can provide you with even better room for development. Everyone fell silent. It seemed that the 7 superpowers' strength was very reasonable. They would try their best to rope in powerful young people, so there would be no shortage of talents. After the distribution of the spots, everyone watched quietly as Chen Feng drew some symbols on the ground. With the support of Cui Bo and the others, no one dared to express their dissatisfaction. They could only hope that the barrier would last longer. After Chen Feng had finished setting up the various arrangements, he began to inscribe on the purple snake's thorn with his finger. Immediately, the light on the sword expanded and turned into a huge purple python. All kinds of runes flashed on its body, and a desolate aura was emitted. However, although the purple python's eyes were filled with killing intent, it appeared to be extremely dull. Let's go. I hope we succeed. Chen Feng stood up and stepped onto the purple python's back. Those who are qualified, come up. Everyone jumped onto it. Although the purple python was wide, it could only fit 18 people. Cui Bo's face darkened. He stared at Cui Yuan and shouted, "Hurry up and go." Cui Yuan's body trembled and he lowered his head. The hair on his forehead covered his eyes, and no emotions could be seen. Cui Bo's heart skipped a beat. He thought that this farewell might be an eternal farewell. He could not bear to scold him, so he patted his shoulder and said, "Listen to me. Go back to your master immediately after you leave. From now on, you can cultivate with your master in peace. Don't bother yourself with the business union." Cui Yuan felt the body temperature coming from his shoulder and felt that his whole body was on fire. It was so hot. The force that was squeezing his shoulder was so great that his shoulder was about to be crushed. Bang! Cui Yuan's knees suddenly knelt down and his forehead slammed down, causing the ground to crack. He cried, "Father, let me stay. Don't chase me away." What? Cui Bo trembled and said angrily, "You want to stay behind and cause more trouble for me?" He sent a kick over and directly sent Cui Yuan flying. A burst of energy entered his body and instantly broke the meridians in his 4 limbs. He shouted, "Feiyu, look after him for me." Li Feiyu's face was also filled with grief. He grabbed Cui Yuan and remained silent. At this moment, other than the members of the Blade Sect, who were all smiling and showing off their superiority, no one else could relax. Chen Feng cast a few spells on the snake's head, and a circle of light spread out from the formation on the snake's body. It gradually gathered power in front of the snake's head, and finally turned into a black dot. It slowly expanded, and actually opened a spatial tunnel. The demon clansmen in the sky above the sacrificial formation widened their eyes. Li said in disbelief, "How is that possible? A space tunnel? How can a space tunnel appear under the Jushi formation?" Sheng's expression was one of deep thought as he mumbled, "This should be a spatial ability that the sword snake possessed when it was alive. I didn't think it would have such a skill and be able to escape 18 of them. The world is so big and the magical powers are so strong that even if we were at the peak of the world, we wouldn't dare to say that we know them all." Under Chen Feng's careful control, the purple python sword flew into the dark tunnel and disappeared. The core of the barrier suddenly lost 18 people, and it suddenly seemed a little empty. Cui Bo was sad for a while, but he quickly recovered and shouted, "All the Martial Supreme and Peak Martial Honor powerhouses can enter the core area. Everyone, let's join hands and fight. This might be the last time we'll work together." Now that he had sent his son away, his heart was at ease. He no longer had any worries about the future, and his entire person seemed to be much more excited than before. Immediately, a large number of Martial Supremes and Peak Martial Venerables squeezed over and filled up the place again. Luoying nodded and said, "That's right. With so many experts here, if we were to be refined by these demons just like that, it would be too ridiculous and ridiculous. Everyone, keep your spirits up. As long as the dragon's might is extinguished, we'll turn them into ashes. Everyone was also hopeful after hearing this. The power of the barrier had been greatly strengthened. At this moment, other than the 10,000 people in the barrier, the entire Songwei city had probably become a dead city.